Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is David Novak. I thought I would give a little update as far as my progress with reading these books. So I have finally, after much angst, finished Volume 1 of the Gulag Archipelago. Now, Volume 1 contains parts 1 and 2 of Solzhenitsyn's epic out of 7 parts. And part 1 goes on for something like almost 500 pages, and part 2 is a little, maybe 150. And part 1 was very difficult. He's trying to acclimate you to the whole sense of the Gulag archipelago being his metaphor for the whole prison system. And so he introduces the topic, gives a little history, gives a little bit of his experience, his culture shock upon arrival into the system. And then part 2, he begins to discuss sort of the breadth of the system, how it has little islands, if you will, all over the country, and how the transportation occurs throughout the various parts of the system. And for me, even before I got to part 2, towards the end of part 1, all of a sudden something gelled with me, and I got in sync with his writing style. Solzhenitsyn's writing style does not appeal to me greatly, but after 500 pages about, or 450 pages, I felt in sync with it, and I'm glad I persisted this far, and I am still planning to read the other 2 volumes here. Now, Volume 2, or parts 3 and 4, I believe, is slightly longer by about 50 pages than Volume 1. And then Volume 3, I get all these names confused. Volume 3 contains the last 3 parts, and it's a little bit smaller than either of the first 2 volumes. So I have switched. Hey, come on. I have switched back to Runciman, Stephen Runciman. I finished, before I read the Gulag, I finished the first Crusade, and I have just begun, well, it's the Kingdom of Jerusalem, and now I don't know if I can get it out of here. Ha ha ha. Dear. There we go. And I thought that I would share with you a little bit from the introduction. The writing is so elegant. I mean, Solzhenitsyn's writing is a bit of a mess, maybe in Russian. It's got some style to it, at least as translated. It's a bit of a mess. It's unkempt. It's haggard. And I think the real draw for Solzhenitsyn is the picture that he provides of the whole Gulag system. And I've decided it's worth pursuing, don't get me wrong, but Runciman, well, there's nothing to really show, but I'll show you the front page perhaps. This is Volume 2 of his History of the Crusades in a lovely folio edition. And I'll just read to you a little bit from the introduction. As I say, the elegant is the word that comes to mind for the writing. This is the preface. In this volume, I have attempted to tell the story of the Frankish states of Outremer from the accession of King Baldwin I to the reconquest of Jerusalem by Saladin. It is a story that has been told before by European writers, notably with German thoroughness by Rochricht and with French elegance and ingenuity by René Grousset, and too briefly in English by W.B. Stevenson. I have covered the same ground and used the same principal sources as these writers, but have ventured to give the evidence and interpretation that sometimes differs from my predecessors. The narrative cannot always be simple. In particular, the politics of the Muslim world in the early 12th century defy a straightforward analysis, but they must be understood if we are to understand the establishment of the Crusader states and the later causes of the recovery of Islam. The 12th century experienced none of the great racial migrations that characterized the 11th century and were to recur in the 13th, to complicate the story of the later Crusades and the decline and fall of Outremer. For the moment, we can concentrate our main attention on Outremer itself, but we must always keep in view the wider background of Western European politics, of the religious wars of the Spanish and Sicilian rulers, and of the preoccupation of Byzantium and of the Eastern Caliphate. The preaching of Saint Bernard, the arrival of the English fleet at Lisbon, the palace intrigues at Constantinople and Baghdad are all episodes in the drama, though its climax was reached on a bare hill in Galilee. The main theme in this volume is warfare, and in dwelling on the many campaigns and raids, I have followed the example of the old chroniclers who knew their business. For war was the background to life in Outremer, and the hazards of the battlefield often decided its destiny. So, war being the main theme, that puts me right in line with BookTube at War, a BookTube event about which I will put information in the description below. So, this is all new to me. The Crusades are, I now know a little bit about the First Crusade, but everything thereafter is completely new to me. I read it in Gibbon without understanding much. So some of the names will be familiar a little bit, but that's about it. And I realize with the mention of Saint Bernard, this puts me right in touch with Dante. The close of his Paradise, I think, depends a lot upon Saint Bernard, and it makes me want to reread Dante a little bit. But so that's where I stand with these books. This book is about 100 pages longer than the First Crusade, and I believe the third book is likewise. So I hope that my reading speed picks up a little bit, especially with the Gulag, but I'm not going to rush it, and we'll see how it goes. I thought I would update you. Thank you very much for stopping by.